It was just a habit. Nothing more, nothing less. Since Sarah and I had become college roommates, sharing the shower had turned into an unspoken part of our routine. It made sense, saving time, saving water, and honestly neither of us cared. It wasn't awkward. It wasn't weird. It was comfortable. Natural. At least, that's what I had always believed. Until today. Because today, when she walked into the bathroom, something was different. It wasn't obvious at first. She entered like she always did, her towel slung over one shoulder, hair pulled into a messy bun. The faint scent of her shampoo lingered in the air, familiar, like every other day. But then, as she reached for the edge of her towel, her eyes lifted, meeting mine in the foggy mirror above the sink. And she hesitated. It was subtle, just a fraction of a second where she froze. Like something had shifted in the way she looked at me. Like she was seeing me for the first time. And the strangest part? My heart skipped a beat. I had seen Sarah naked countless times. It wasn't a big deal. It never had been. So why did my chest suddenly feel tight? Why did my skin prickle with a heat that had nothing to do with the steam curling around us? I forced myself to look away, shaking off whatever strange energy had settled between us. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I was just overtired. Midterms had been brutal, and my brain was probably just fried. But then she spoke, her voice softer than usual. "You okay?" I glanced back at her. She was still watching me, her expression unreadable, her towel now clutched a little tighter in her hands. I swallowed. "Yeah. Why?" She hesitated again, her lips parting like she wanted to say something else. But instead, she just shrugged, offering a small, almost uncertain smile. "No reason." She dropped the towel. And for the first time in years, I felt self-conscious. I turned quickly, stepping into the shower before she could notice the way my fingers trembled as I adjusted the water. The hot spray hit my skin, but it didn't do anything to wash away the sudden awareness that lingered in my chest. What the hell was that? Sarah and I were close, sure. We had been sharing a space for almost 2 years now, and at this point, we knew pretty much everything about each other. Favorite foods, childhood stories, embarrassing exes. But that moment in the mirror, it wasn't friendly. It wasn't normal. I exhaled, tilting my head back under the stream. I was overthinking this. Sarah was probably just distracted, maybe caught up in her own head about something. And I was being ridiculous, reading into things that weren't there. I needed to pull myself together. I needed to act like nothing had changed. But the problem was, something had changed, and I wasn't sure I could ignore it. Part 2. The accidental touch that changed everything. The water was hot, almost scalding, but I barely felt it. Steam curled around us, thickening the air, making it heavier, harder to breathe. The bathroom had always been small, but tonight, it felt suffocating. I tried to ignore it. Tried to act like this was just another night, just another part of our routine. But my skin felt hypersensitive. Every drop of water a reminder of just how aware I was of her. Every small movement she made. Lifting her arms to lather shampoo into her hair, tilting her head back under the spray, fingers sliding through wet strands, kept pulling my attention. And I hated it. I hated how my body felt on edge, how my pulse stuttered when she shifted slightly closer, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. I hated how wrong this felt. Not because of her, but because I had never let myself feel this way before. Not about her. Not about anyone. Then it happened. A simple touch. A meaningless moment. But it wrecked me. Sarah reached for the shampoo at the exact same time I did, our fingers brushing. Barely, but it sent a jolt through me like a live wire. I froze. So did she. The bottle wobbled between us, neither of us moving to grab it, like the contact had short-circuited something fundamental. It was nothing. It should have been nothing. But she didn't pull away. And neither did I. I could feel her skin, warm, slick with water, the faintest tremble running through her fingertips. I wanted to tell myself I was imagining it, that she wasn't feeling the exact same thing curling low in my stomach, twisting tighter with each passing second. Then, slowly, she turned her head. Her eyes met mine through the rising steam. And everything shifted. Her lips parted slightly, like she was about to say something, but no words came. Just silence. Heavy, electric silence. I could see it. The hesitation. The realization. The confusion that mirrored my own. She felt it too. I knew it in the way her breathing changed, in the way her chest rose and fell just a little too quickly, in the way her fingers flexed against mine before she finally, snatched her hand back. She took a step away, gripping the shampoo bottle like it had burned her. I swallowed, pulse hammering in my throat. I could still feel her. And I knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that nothing between us would ever be the same again. The silence was deafening. I could hear everything: the steady drip of water against tile, the faint rustle of steam curling around us, the sound of my own unsteady breathing. But between us? Nothing. Not a single word. And yet, the air between us was charged, thick with something I didn't have a name for. I should have turned away. Should have rinsed the shampoo from my hair and pretended nothing had happened. But I didn't. And neither did she. Sarah stood there, barely an arm's length away, droplets of water sliding down the curve of her shoulder, her collarbone disappearing beneath the steam. Her chest rose and fell just a little too fast, like she was waiting for something. Waiting for me. I felt like I couldn't move. Like if I did, something irreversible would happen. Then she did it. She licked her lips. A quick flick of her tongue, barely noticeable. But my eyes followed the movement, locked onto it, like it was the only thing in the world that mattered. And then, in a voice softer than I had ever heard from her, she asked, "Have you ever thought about it?" My stomach plummeted. The word sent a shockwave through me, every nerve in my body snapping to attention. Thought about what? The question sat between us, heavy and dangerous, like a loaded gun waiting to go off. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Because I had thought about it. More times than I wanted to admit. More times than I could count. Late at night, in the quiet, in the moments between sleep and wakefulness when my mind wandered to places it shouldn't. I had thought about what it would feel like. The brush of her fingers against my skin. The press of her body against mine. The way her lips would taste, feel, move. I had thought about it so many times that it terrified me. But saying it out loud, admitting that whatever this was, whatever we were, had crossed my mind more than once, that was something else entirely. I couldn't. Because once the words were spoken, there would be no taking them back. Sarah took a breath, her gaze never leaving mine. And I knew she saw it. She saw the way my body tensed, the way my fingers curled into my palms, the way my lips parted slightly but no words came out. She saw everything. And the worst part, she understood. Her eyes softened, just slightly, as if she knew exactly what was running through my mind. I wanted to look away, to break whatever spell had settled over us. But I couldn't, because I wasn't sure if I was ready for this. But I was even less sure if I could deny it any longer. She moved closer. Slowly, cautiously, like she was giving me time to stop her. Time to pull away. Time to run. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because even if every rational part of my brain screamed at me to be careful, to think, to remember that this was Sarah, my best friend, my roommate, the person I had spent the last 2 years not thinking about like this, my body had already made the decision for me. I wasn't going anywhere. The steam curled around us, thick and suffocating, but it was nothing compared to the heat between us. Then finally, her fingers brushed against my skin. No excuses. No accidents. No pretending. A single, deliberate touch, her fingertips ghosting over my arm, sending a ripple of heat down my spine. And that was it. That was all it took for me to know. There was no turning back. My breath caught as she reached up, tracing a slow path along my shoulder, up my neck, her eyes locked onto mine like she was searching for something. Permission, maybe. Or reassurance. I didn't know who moved first. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was her. All I knew was that 1 second there was space between us, and the next there wasn't. Her lips met mine, hesitant at first, testing, waiting. But the second I kissed her back, that hesitation shattered. Her hands slid up, fingers tangling in my wet hair, pulling me closer, pressing our bodies together until there was nothing between us but heat and skin and want. I could feel my pulse hammering in my throat, could feel the way her breath hitched as I pressed back against her, could feel the way her nails dug slightly into my back, anchoring herself to me like she was afraid I might slip away. As if I could. As if there was anywhere else in the world I'd rather be than right here. The water poured over us, forgotten, slipping over our tangled bodies as her hands roamed, learning, memorizing. And I let her. Because she was right. This had never been just a shower. It had never been just a habit. It had always been something more. And now, finally, neither of us had to pretend otherwise.